All right, hopefully we are live now. So, welcome everybody. Welcome who is tuning in now. Welcome to the Indian Racing League uh, Season 10, Division 2. Not sure what round this is, but we are around Bahrain, a night race in the Middle East. Mostly a dry session, or pretty much always a dry session in through the dry sands in the Middle East. So let's see how these drivers are doing. Meanwhile, we're almost halfway into qualifying. So there are the two Ferraris right now occupying the front row. A good time set in by them, 129.0, and 3 tenths behind is his teammate. So let's have a look at, rather not the tire, but yeah, the gap these drivers have. So 4 tenths behind is Pratham in the Alpine, and Wicked Vicky just setting in a time and displacing Harsh from P2, splitting the two Ferraris and the Red Bull right there in between. So pretty much a rivalry from real life, although Ferrari hasn't been doing what it's supposed to for the recent years, but let's see what it can do right now in the Indian Racing League. But let's see if there is any driver who is going to cross. Alright, Oxidize is probably, yes, he is on a run and he is on a hot lap. He's going to he's going to put in his first time. Let's see where he goes as he pretty much comes through to the final corner. Needs to just a penultimate corner. There is a small right turn just here, the final corner. Now DRS wide open to the straight, start finish straight. And he goes P6. So purple sector 3 for him. So a lot of time for him to find. Let's see, there's an Alpha Tauri of vintage coming to cross the line, 130.7. So probably doing some race runs and still prepping his way through to the race, as Wicked Vicky probably would dash into the pits. There's an Alpine right in front of him, Rasam, who is going to start a lap. Not many drivers on the grid right now, so on the track right now rather, so we'll just follow him and see what kind of lap he puts in as he comes across the start finish straight. A hard braking zone down to second gear, hairpin, takes it rather neat, clean, a bit tentative on the throttle, but DRS wide open for him yet again as now he approaches turn 4. Can a lot of room on the outside, decides against using the maximum of the track limits, but he meanwhile still gets to a decent run through these S's. Another hard braking zone approaching. Oh, probably a lockup, just a slight lockup on the right front. Let's see, one of the trickiest corners if you are running ABS off, turn 10. He does probably lock up a bit, is then fairly careful on his braking, but sometimes I believe this is more of a spectator glitch as well. He might not be locking up actually while riding. Let's see as he comes across to finish the middle sector. Another full throttle zone keeps his car fairly neat to the apexes. Gentle on the brakes, down to third gear. Another short straight. You need to really line yourself up for the final corner, and which he probably will now. Decided against using the maximum track limits that drivers generally do, but still let's see where he finds himself, 130.5. Probably a lot of time for him as well to find, mainly setting his car up more for a race run than a quali. But let's see, we'll find out as there are a few drivers. Raman is also going to start a lap. Let's come back to him later. There's a Ferrari of Shrikant down on his time. I mean, up on his time rather. Not really improving, and he heads back into the pits. So, alright, there is the other Ferrari of Harsh who is also not really improving on his time. And now he's also coming, the next car to cross the line. Let's see where he sees his car. I hope I didn't do an audio check. I am audible on the stream. Oh, hopefully. Yeah, there is a lot of chatter going on in the stream, so hopefully I have been audible. Alright, hello, viewers tuning in. Thanks, you could probably give me some company, and this time I might just keep an eye out on the comments. Anyway, alright, so yeah, my vote will rather go for Srikanth because Srikanth might just can. So let's see, he is on provisional pole right now, coming back to the race. There are the Alpines that are now going to cross the line. One has dashed into the pits while the other is going to improve on a time. Yes, he does. Pratham goes P2. So good lap time put in by Pratham, and there's a Mercedes also crossing the line. I probably just missed it. Who that was? Was that 7? And 7, though not right now, but also has put his car up in P3. So good pace for him as well tonight. One of those very few drivers probably who is all assists off even the racing line. So kudos to him for all that pace that he has. And let's see if there are other. There's an Alfa Romeo. I believe the two drivers are. One of them is on an outlap, and I think that's a Haas of You Can Beat Me, probably on race runs. Malav just enjoying his time there in Bahrain, and so would he during the race, driving around for the pleasure of it, not for the pleasure of racing. We love you, Malav. We all do. Anyway, coming back to qualifying, F17 is also dashing into the pits. Probably a low phase there in qualifying where these drivers might just be setting themselves up for one final runs, or probably two considering the amount of time we have. But considering the nature of league racing, you generally tend to see safety cars coming out during the race, and a fresh set of softs might just come in handy for these drivers, as just a few drivers out on track. Alright, Chips. So I think, yep, and you're putting viewers, you may put in your predictions as well. I think I'm going to go for Srikanth, Wicked Vicky, and Shooter would be my prediction for the race, and not for qualifying right now. But let's see. We have You Can Beat Me, who's Mayank just finished his time, and we missed that. He's taken P11, a second off the pace of the pole sitter. So Shrikant, not anybody, nobody has been able to challenge him for pole. Pratham has come closest, 27 thousandths the gap between the two, and 54 thousandths of a second, or rather top four within a tenth of each other. So that is a very close field that we might just have here in Division 2. Let's see how the race also unfolds. A lot of pace for these drivers truly comes out during the race, and let's see how they strategize themselves. As there's an Alpha Tauri coming to cross the line and getting into the pits, is it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was Vintage getting back into the pits. So Mayank also probably going to come back into the pits. Harsh has come out on an outlap pretty soon. I think he might just have fueled himself for giving him another shot. You never know. Alright, Chip. 7, Srikanth, and Shooter. Alright. In any order. How do I... Alright, I might just have to change the settings of my phone so that I'm able to view these comments better. Chips, did you just choose the same predictions as I did. No, yeah, no. Vicky was mine. Hi, Manshu. Welcome to the chat. Of course, in fact, there are a lot of drivers that are playing racing with the controller itself. So you can always, you have the supreme leader in the likes of Mercurial Caesar as well in the chat, and he can definitely tell you how. Meanwhile, drivers have started coming out for their final lap around, as Harsh was already on a hot lap. He has managed to navigate his way through traffic, and I think he finished his lap as well. Is he going on another run, or is he just going to continue? I think he is not really deploying his battery per se, so probably just nursing his tires to go for another run. You can beat me doing race runs. So we don't have anybody who's going to start a lap right now. Who's going to be the first one to start lap actually? Is it the Alpine of Pratham? Yes, I believe Pratham would be the first. The two Alpines, I believe, are following each other. Meanwhile, as drivers just start, I'll just be right back. Alrighty, Pratham, Rasam, and then probably a Mercedes of 7, is it? No, I think that's the other Mercedes of Raman would be crossing the line, the first three. So, a lot of drivers, everybody probably barring two drivers out on track, and Mayank has retired from the session in the pits, I believe. That is, so no more qualifying for him. So, Pratham is right now just went through turn 10s, back straight, DRS wide open for him. Meanwhile, the Alpine right behind him as well. So the first driver to finish the final run of qualifying. Let's see where if he can take that pole position away. He is improving by a 1.5 tenths, almost 1.5 tenths on his time. That should be enough to take provisional pole right now, but Shrikant is also right behind. Let's see, final corner, full throttle, DRS should be wide open for him. Where does Pratham, what kind of time does he put in? P1 with a 128.9, and Rasam following suit. He doesn't really improve on his time. There's a Mercedes of Raman that's crossing the line, and he goes P2, 3,000s the gap between the two. There's an Aston Martin of Shooter with provisional pole of 28.8. There's an Alfa Tauri, I believe, of Vintage, was it? Yes, Vintage crossed the line. P9 for Vintage, as Shrikant, was it? Shrikant goes P2, and there's an Alfa Romeo. Oh my god, a lot of cars following behind, but F17 also coming to cross the line. I think Domithor would be the one crossing the line after him. Where does he go? He stays P11, does improve on his time. Meanwhile, 7, the last of the drivers, and back into the pits. So that is pretty much qualifying for Division 2 tonight at Bahrain. As let's see, weren't able to really go through the order, but we will have a lot of time to go through that right now. But interesting last qualifying, a lot of shuttling of provisional pole there. Meanwhile, Shooter, the final driver to seal the pole with a 128.8. Shrikant Das rounding up the front row in that Ferrari. Pratham in P3. Raman, Noble Garter, Wicked Vicky, Oxidized Rage, 7, Harsh, and Vintage Player rounding up the top 10, and also the drivers within that second. And Domithor, Mayank, Rasam, Harshi, the other time sitters. Meanwhile, You Can Beat Me practicing some race runs. Abhi and Spandan rounding up all those positions. and the top 5 are within a tenth of each other. So need to watch out. Yup, indeed, Chips, that is the case. It is going to be an interesting fight down to turn one into lap one. Let's see who is the driver that comes out. And we have 5 different constructors as well. In fact, 6 in the top 6. So different constructors. The fight for drivers and constructors is all open. And I'm not sure if formation lap is on or off. Looks like it is off. So I'm not going to get a lot of time to set my controls right. I think it is off. That is the reason why the game is probably started like this. Is it? No. Oh, I still have to wait anyway. No. Right, let's see. Okay, formation lap is off anyway, so right, so that is pretty much the case. Alright, hopefully these drivers are setting their strategy right. So mediums to hards should be probably the ideal strategy to go here in a 50% race. Let's see if we have any kind of soft runner starting looking to hope for an early safety car and going for a set of hards. But expect a lot of strategy changes and a lot of, not a lot hopefully, but some kind of safety car to come into the picture. But let's see, as we have 5 lights out and it's a bit of a pause and lights out and away we go. Shooter gets a decent start. Meanwhile, the top 3 getting a good start. Wicked Vicky in the Red Bull getting a brilliant start, trying to challenge in the top 4. Shooter easily. Oh, there's a lot of aji going. Contact right behind between the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull. Meanwhile, Shooter has steered clear 7/10 of Shrikant Das, who has now coming under attack from the Red Bull of Oxidized Rage, and Ramen also looks to get involved but is rather cautious. A bit of contact between the two drivers. Oxidized on the inside. It's 3 wide at the S's. Shrikant Das probably holds back, but Oxidized Rage has also had a tremendous start. He's got Ramen right behind him for company. Meanwhile, 2 drivers also going side by side. The 2 Ferraris are just dropping positions. Shrikant Das falling down the order, not having the best of the starts. I think a good time to have a look at the tire situation as well. I started on the mediums, but oh, there is a bit of contact there between these drivers, eventually falling out all clean. Meanwhile, Shooter has taken a 1.8 second lead within the first 2 sectors of this first lap, so that is a mega start from Shooter. Meanwhile, Pratham following right behind, and Red Bull of Oxidized also having a lot of pace in him, challenging Pratham for that final corner, but he would probably decide to hold back right now. Not the idealist of times for him to probably make a move and plan a move down into turn 1. Meanwhile, the drivers now have rather settled into their rhythm, but there is a McLaren right behind of Spandan that is challenging Vintage Player, going side by side, and I think side by side are Noble Garter and Wicked Vicky as well. Wicked Vicky probably making a move, and Spandan, Hershey and Vintage Player, all 3 involved, and there is a spinner of Mayank in those soft tires, probably just going a bit too eager on the throttle and losing his car. Meanwhile, McLaren of Spandan is looking to make a move but has to yield, and Vintage Player claims that position back, as I don't know if that was lag or contact, not very sure. Meanwhile, going back up, Oxidized, we missed that move in all of the battle right behind, but Oxidized has really claimed that P2 and is looking to charge and cover that gap to Shooter that he's made. While Vintage Player, and this is a fight probably we need to keep an eye on, Vintage Player and Spandan the Gamer side by side, both these drivers. What happens? Who is the late of the breakers? I think Vintage is the late. Oh, rather, I've lost of words here. Spandan the Gamer getting a bit squirrely at those few corners, but everything is back, hopefully settled through. But Vintage Player is still coming under a lot of attack right behind, but he is still holding back. Spandan the gamer is rather looking to make the move as DRS is now enabled, but that gap to shooter is just opening that gap up lap after lap. And with DRS enabled, this is a mega train that's just following right behind. And there is a driver that went wide. I'm not sure was that Hershey or who that was, but it difficult to keep a track on. A lot of action going all around the track, but Raman has made a move on Pratham in all of this. So Pratham has lost a few positions there. Raman looking to get as much as he can. 3.3 is the gap to the leader. It's fairly a good move, a good race start for Shooter right now. He needs to keep holding himself and see what happens. As going right back behind, I think all of these drivers are just following each other. Not really a lot of moves incoming per se, but let's see. I think this is some battle that is going to brew from P2 to P7, I believe. Oh, Chips, happy birthday to you. Wish you the best of year ahead, and now we understand why you aren't in the comms box, but good to have your company there alongside in the comments. Anyway, coming back, DRS train right from P2 to P10, I believe, and there is a driver which is Raman who is looking to make a move and makes a move well before the braking zone on that Red Bull. But this time, Oxidize is the one who's going to get the DRS. Is he going to look to come back? Not a lot of moves going to happen behind, but Raman does get a good drive through those set of corners, and he will still hold that P2 and all of this. So a very consistent gap to Shooter right now. So not a lot of concern right now for him, as Vintage and Spandan are at it. Spandan has already gotten a track extension penalty, I believe. I think that is. So let's see how much that affects his race, as there is a good helicopter view of this race. Pandan is super eager to make a move on Vintage. Meanwhile, Shrikant Das making a move on Noble Garter, and he would look to make his way back up there. He did not have a great best of starts that he would have liked, so let's see what happens. But Rasam is also pretty close at the back, at the rears of that other Mercedes of 7, and meanwhile Oxidize is also just 3.5 tenths behind Raman, and I believe there is a move coming. He pulls to the right, pulls to the inside on Raman, and Wells makes a move well before the braking zone. So that is going to be a lot of shuttling of positions between the two, as Rasam also makes a move on 7. So 7 falling back a few orders. Let's have a look at what the situation with the position changes is. So Oxidize Rage getting a good start so far. 4 positions and 5 positions for Rasam as well. So good start for these drivers, as Harsh and you can beat me, yielding that position to Harsh, who has fallen way down the pack. So that's both the Ferraris need to really do a comeback race, which they really need to do in real life as well. So hopefully they can find some motivation from these drivers, as the 2 Red Bulls are now also together exchanging those positions. Did Oxidize have a moment? I believe he did. I think he lost his car somewhere, because he has lost a lot of positions, and now Pratham is back in P3. Meanwhile, Wicked Vicky is also right there. So let's see if team orders come into any kind of play here between the 2 teammates. Going back, as a healthy train between P2 to P7 right now. So nothing really coming in, and no safety cars, and 4 seconds is now the gap to leader. So all this fighting for the rest of the positions is just helping Shooter, and he is just cruising his way through. Sorry, shooter, you drive that way, you're not going to get any kind of screen time because all the other drivers in the midfield are giving us a great fight. Oh. Alright, I think Shrikant Das came very close to oxidize. What did he? Alright, just give me a moment, guys. I'll just be back. Oh, spinner. Oxidized rage, and it's a safety car. So 6 laps in, and we have a safety car. Oxidized rage not having the best of those last few laps and doesn't have a front wing, but safety car might just save him there. So any drivers in the pits? Yes, Ramen is in the pits. He is going to go for a set of hard tires for sure. So no other driver deciding to pit right now. There is one more, I think. Yeah, I think that is Hershey. A lot of drivers eventually deciding to pit. Hershey, Oxidized, Pandan, all probably coming to a set of hard tires, looking to take those to the end of the race. And meanwhile, Shrikant Das is also back in P4, and all the hard work done by uh, Shooter has just come undone. So he might just have to do that thing again. But considering how his start and first part of the race went through, it rather looked smooth sailing for him. So let's see what kind of restart we have now. Pratham in P2, and none of these drivers, barring a few, deciding to box. So let's see how all this strategy plays out. Would they be hoping for another safety car or something? Soon to find out. Ethan, I'm not sure what timing you're referring to, but if you're referring to the moment I just unmuted and we had a safety car, so yeah, that was some kind of timing. Meanwhile, but mediums and hards, the only two tire compounds in the entire grid, so nobody opting for any kind of aggressive strategies and thinking of boxing one more time, but let's see. Fresh hards, if they can take these tires through to 21 laps, though those hards can go that distance, but they might just be very towards the end of the race, and one safety car in the end can just change a lot of dynamics of the race. So let's see. We hope to see a rather dynamic race than a boring one, which D2 has rather provided for, historically speaking, as well, and presently as well. So hopefully these drivers will keep continuing the same. And the best part is we don't have any kind of a DNF so far, and all these drivers have fairly avoided each other, given us a good side by side racing action and clean battles. So kudos to all these drivers. But yeah, eventually the stewards will know the kind of incidents that come into that at the end of the race. I'd rather not want this comment to prematurely die. Alright, safety car in this lap, so the drivers should be catching their gears while I catch my breath now for a masaledar safety car restart. So Shooter taking his time to go through, shoot Pratham right behind, and Wicked Vicky, Shrikant Das and Noble Garter right behind, but Shooter Pratham has rather a big gap to Shooter. Let's see where he decides to go. Shooter is at the front corner, and yes, he has gone, and that's a fairly considerable gap to Shooter, and he has lost his car in all of that. I need to come up. Please let me come up, game. Yeah, Noble Garter right there. A lot of drivers, a bit of drivers side by side, hopefully. Everybody staying clean of each other. A bit of contact between Harsh and I think that was You Can Beat Me, and which has led to some chaos in the midfield. There are a lot of drivers, almost 3 wide. They're going into the corner. Alpha Tauri and the Alfa Romeo Vintage player, I believe, Vintage player, and Hershey, that is going side by side. Hershey making that move around the outside of that corner. Good restart for him. Meanwhile, going up front, Shooter has has gotten another 2-second lead owing to that spin, an unfortunate moment for Pratham, and he's gotten a comfortable cap, but Wicked Vicky has other plans. Meanwhile, he's stripping off tenths off Shooter. Let's see how that pans out over the course of the next few laps. Meanwhile, Oxidize and Harsh going side by side, the Ferrari yielding from that corner and ceding that position to Oxidize for that moment. And Spandan and Vintage player, a battle that has continued throughout the course of this race so far, and Spinner in the likes of Pratham yet again, so he has fallen a lot of positions, and the Mercedes of Raman is also looking to get interested. Meanwhile, Spandan, has he made contact? Did he make contact with Domithor? I'm not very sure. It looked like he did get pushed and shoved from the McLaren behind, and Spandan forcing his way through into P8, but Domithor wants to come back. Is he going to break late? No, he follows right behind. Meanwhile, AlphaTauri of Vintage player breaks late, throws Ramen a bit awry, but I think all sorted right now, as the Red Bull of Oxidized Rage also looking to get interested at Harsh has somehow lost a few positions. Meanwhile, Ramen and Domithor has lost another position in this whole battle, and Vintage goes wide through those S's and loses a position to Oxidized Rage. A lot of action going on right through. Wicked Vicky falling from the clutches of Shooter, but it is a rather sectorial battle between the two. One is more dominant on one of the sectors while the other is dominant on the others. The gap is rather consistent, but we have a yellow flag for Domithor, who has going the wrong way, not for long hopefully, otherwise you might just get disqualified. And change of positions between Hershey and Rasam, was it? Or not very sure what happened there, but coming back to the battle up front, Shrikant Das right in P3. He is DRS should be enabled now. He would be looking to see make himself commanding in those rear view mirrors of that Red Bull or Red Bull versus Ferrari battle. Yet again, we've seen a lot of Max Verstappen versus Charles Leclerc encounters in the recent past. But let's see, a bit of moving change of positions there, I believe. I think Spandan, the gamer, did he make a move on? No, I'm not very sure. Something did happen around. Missed a bit of battles there, a lot of action going on, but coming back. Shrikant is a few car lengths away to be able to pose any kind of threat on this lap. to Wicket Vicky. Noble Garter, meanwhile, rather closer to Shrikant than he is to the Red Bull ahead. F17 also under attack from Hershey. Is Hershey looking to make a move on the inside? No, is the answer. But the Mercedes of Raman looked keen to make a move but didn't at that moment, and Spandan the gamer has no battery to contend with. So that might just be a challenging time for him in the race, because battery recovery is not so easy around this track, and not sure. Let's see how that unfolds for him. But going back up, is Shrikant Das going to make a move on Wicket Vicky? Hershey is looking to make a move on 7. A bit of contact, was it, or just braking, reacting to that Red Bull? Not sure what happened, but Shrikant Das with another dose of DRS. Is he going to go down the inside? No, is the answer. Follows suit right behind Wicket Vicky. Noble Carter is also right behind, interested to pick up the scraps that might come out of that battle. Up front, Spandan the gamer and Raman, another battle that's rather very close, and Oxidize looking to claw his way back up in the race. Just has a bit of a moment, I believe, out of that corner. Meanwhile, Mayank just pulling away from Vintage. Let's see how that unfolds. Abhi and Harsh also involved in a battle with each other, and so is You Can Beat Me right up front, right ahead of them rather. Just a moment. Chips, really miss you on the comms box, Smith. Pelia, yaar. Yeah, Noble has a higher downforce setup, is it? Yeah, preserve ERS, stay behind and do an undercut. Precisely, undercut has seemed to be rather powerful, but forget about undercut. These drivers are rather eager to make their moves as much as they can in any corner whatsoever, but that is hard racing indeed. And Spandan the gamer goes on the inside of that corner, looking to make a move on the Mercedes of Raman, or rather, is it 7? Yes, it is 7. So 7 in trying to, I believe he was the driver who was the one ahead of the two Mercedes. I think in trying to pass, let his teammate by, he got rather vulnerable to Spandan and lost that position. But anyway, nonetheless, he can keep his head up as Raman is now looking to make a move on Hershey. Dives around, down on the inside. A bit of contact between the two drivers, but Raman barges his way through and is now up in P5. So interesting fight between these drivers for the midfield. And Spandan the gamer has retired from the session. Something happened. What happened? Oh, he spun out of that, trying to get eager on power on that corner, I believe, and another safety car. So perfect timing for these medium runners. Expect everybody to dash into the pits. Is there a double stack anywhere? I don't think so. Yep, there might just be a double stack of the Red Bull that might hamper them, or maybe not. But yeah, hard tires for pretty much everybody. And are these hard runners going to go in for a set of mediums right now? Hershey does, and Vintage also does for a set of hard tires, and mediums for the rest of the field who started on hards. But Abhi has come out on a set of soft tires. So is he going to go back into the pits and save a lap and go into the mediums? Maybe. Not very sure. Let's see. But yep, the front of the field, Raman, Oxidize and Mayank had boxed in the previous safety cars, so they are on 7-lap old hard tires. Meanwhile, fresh tires for Shooter, Wicket Vicky, Shrikant Das Noble Garter, Hershey with a faster compound as well, fresher, faster compound. So let's see what kind of impact he has on the second half of the race. 7 with a fresh compound. Domithor has started on the hard tires, decided to still continue on those hard tires, and let's see how that race unfolds and that strategy choice works out for him. Meanwhile, Abi on a set of soft tires and other drivers at the back of the field on a set of mediums. So the mediums, these drivers did 13 laps on the mediums with one safety car, but hopefully with lighter fuel loads, these mediums would give them that consistency towards the fag end of the race. Yep, Shrikant and Noble might need to attack, but now things with the safety car might just change a lot. There might just be a lot of battles and people trying to take advantage of others fighting up front. Expect a lot of shuffling of positions. Let's see what happens. We just threw 14 laps. We have 14 more laps to go of green flag conditions, so green flag racing. Meanwhile, the position shuttle between You Can Beat Me and Abi coming back into the pits. Pratham also with a fresh. Pratham did box the last lap and he would gain those 2 positions on Abi and You Can Beat Me. Meanwhile, Raman also has a penalty to contend with, so let's have a look. Alright, 5 seconds of penalty. Was that a speeding in the pit lane penalty for him or collision penalty? Not sure. Don't want to delve too much into that. Anyway, so yep, that's pretty much the situation with our drivers here. And safety car should be in this lap as well. Alright, how much does that 5-second harm Raman would be, and probably that could be removable as well. Again, oxidized Mayank, a lot of pace between these drivers. The top 5 in the qualifying session as well, very close to each other. And now let's see what happens. A safety car in this lap. Message is out. Alright, hopefully, let's see what kind of reaction does Oxidize pull out to Raman, and when does Raman decide to dash, and which he does. He is rather tentative right now, hasn't gone so far. Ego is the Red Bull, but Raman is, and Raman goes. He wanted to seize that moment when the Red Bull breaks right behind, but the Alfa Romeo, Mayank and Shooter are rather close, and Raman also fairly close to, rather Oxidized close to Raman, but Raman gets a smooth restart up in the lead. But there are a lot of drivers that are shifting positions. Meanwhile, Shooter also looking to take that P3. Is it? No, Shooter has lost a position rather to the Red Bull of Wicked Vicky, and he is looking to challenge him on the inside. Did he make a move? I think he did. No, he didn't. Meanwhile, I think Shrikant does. Contact between a few drivers. And I think it was the Haas of Noble Garter that probably lost that position and lost the front wing as well. Meanwhile, yes, he is lacking a lot of downforce through those corners. He did have some. Chips, you also mentioned about some kind of higher downforce setup. So now I don't know how much that is going to hurt him, but this is a battle that we need to watch out for. Meanwhile, Raman has also pulled in a decent amount of gap, probably 7 or 8 tenths to the Red Bull of Oxidized Rage. Meanwhile, Oxidized Rage, Wicked Vicky coming rather close to the back of the Alfa Romeo of Mayank. And these drivers with fresh set of hard tires have found the grip that they need and the exit that they need through this final corner side by side. Oh, I don't know if that's the brightness or what's the case. I don't know how the case is in the stream, but it's rather interesting. But Shooter almost goes onto the curb. He messes his braking because of that and is now vulnerable to Shrikant Das. I think that is right behind him, side by side, the two drivers. Is it Shrikant Das compromised on the exit on the corner, rather previous corner? Now he has to settle back. Meanwhile, Wicked Vicky has made a move on the Alfa Romeo of Mayank through that corner. Now Ramen with a 1.2 second lead to the two Red Bulls, who are very close to each other. And would there be any kind of team orders coming in? He is on a faster set compound right now, and he is closing in rather closely, getting a lot of good traction out of that slow corner. Meanwhile, side by side are Shooter and Mayank as well. Mayank gives him just about enough space, and Shooter has to hold back. And the two Ferraris also back in contention. Harsh has clawed up a few positions on those fresh set of medium tires, so expect a good battle to unfold right here as well. As the most, I think that is Harsh and Mayank side by side. Oh, that was some tremendous car control from these four drivers without any contact. Shrikant just following through on Mayank and making that move on Harsh as well. And on my, Shrikant making a move on Mayank and Harsh as well, coming into that, looking to dive around the inside. So that's an interesting battle that is just going on between these drivers. And Seven losing a lot of positions in this whole process. You can beat me, both of them going side by side, a bit of contact between the two, but hopefully all's well for both these drivers and can continue fighting. I believe good friends off the track as well, so all these three drivers. So there's going to end probably in the same party chat, not very sure, but yep, a good show of racing. And Seven looks to make a move on the edge inside, and Mayank just shuts that door on him. Nothing doing for him. So great racing between them, as Wicked Vicky has made a move on Ramen and is looking rather poised to take the race victory. Now he's got 11 laps in front of him and Ramen right behind, and he would rather want to dust away, because DRS should be enabled at the end of this lap, as Seven and Mayank are side by side. Mayank now, contact between the two drivers. I'm not sure if that was some kind of wing damage or not, but Shooter now looking to make a move on Oxidize. Side by side are the couple of drivers ahead as well, and Shooter super late on the brakes and has to take a bit of avoiding action, which compromises the exit of Ramen and gives Wicked Vicky the breathing room that he needs at that moment. Oxidized Age and Shrikant Das, the two Red Bulls and the Ferraris and the Aston Martin side by side. The Mercedes is also involved. This is a mega battle, a fun battle to watch out, and contact between Oxidized and Shrikant was it, and Shrikant just lost a lot of positions in all of that scrap. That might just be some work, a field day for the steward, but hopefully they will manage that through. But I think there is some more contact. I believe that was between a few drivers, I think, but hopefully they will settle each other through, or rather settle themselves through. But meanwhile, the Ferrari is also rather eager to make a move on Shooter, and the Mercedes up ahead, who is on old 12 lap old tires. So there is going to be a bit of struggle at the exit of the final corner, Raman might just look to contact. I think that was a chain reaction, and in the eagerness of making those moves, these drivers. And Rasam has just left the session. Was it a? Oh, Rasam has DNF'd in. Oh, he did DNF in the pit. So in all of that, so not having the best of the time, as Shrikant and Shooter now find each other in company. And you got 7 right in front. Shrikant, is he going to break late? Yes, he does. Goes on the inside of 7, who gives him plenty of room and cedes that position as well, and might just come under attack from Shooter. Is Shooter going to do the same to 7 on this corner? He decides to hold back for the moment, and Vintage and Mayank, was it? I think one of them, they are in the pits. Alright. Okay, so coming back up, so Harsh is in P3 on those medium tires. Ferrari redemption for him after seeing himself back, and Oxidized Rage just missing the braking of turn 10 and has to just take the escape route, and that will make him lose some ground to Harsh as well. And You Can Beat Me is also right behind to make the most out of that battle. Let's see where that ends up. Meanwhile, Abhi is also in P6. That's an interesting race going on. AI chips, that is rather an interesting question that you've asked, but I know my display is rather weird as well. It, I get a very ghosty feeling while I'm spectating this. It looks like I'm in a mist, or where it's so misty. But anyway, You Can Beat Me has made a move on Oxidized Rage, so fresh medium tires serving them very well, and Oxidized struggling a bit on those 14 lap old hard tires, as opposed to Raman, who is somehow managing himself but losing ground to Wicked Vicky indeed. But let's see, I think this is probably the closest battle that we have on track, which is also, the gap is rather widening between the two drivers, and Shooter and Shrikant might just look to make as many positions up as they can, and they have the better tire that might on a longer period, but not sure how much would the difference be in these last 8 laps or so in the race. Meanwhile, Wicked Vicky rather poised and come very in a very good position to win, take the checkered flag for the Red Bull. Raman right behind. His 5-second penalty might just demote him down a few positions, and Harsh in those medium tires trying to maximize the pace as much as he can for these laps. Meanwhile, Shrikant and Pratham side by side. Shrikant on those superior tires and with DRS advantage as well, makes a move well before the braking zone. So yep, Shooter now will also like to do the same, and make that position up on the Alpine, as Harsh has now closed up to Raman. So expect a move incoming probably in the next start finish straight. So we'll probably find out, as Pratham is just right behind these drivers. So a 3-car battle for us. Shooter and Shrikant both getting involved in collisions and incidents and finding themselves at the back of the grid, which was otherwise a good fight between these drivers, as Harsh gets a time penalty. So that is some respite for Raman, though he would lose a few positions to the ones behind, as probably Oxidized Rage also might just be able to pull himself towards you can beat me towards the last few laps, those medium tires might just not have the best of grips. Yep, but he is looking good for a podium indeed. If he can just, he needs to just do some tire preservation and tire management, and he is pretty much poised to get that podium. Uh, and oxidized rage on those old hard tires might just not be much of a threat. So, yep, head down and podium for you can Malav. So let's see how that turns out. But we probably just have 2 or 3 odd laps where we might have that safety car threshold as well. No more safety cars. So lap 26 probably. So hopefully we don't see any safety car. Meanwhile, Oxidized is still sticking well to the back of Malav, and Hershey has retired in the pits, thankful. And so the race continues as Shooter is still stuck behind Pratham. Pratham getting that DRS assistance, but not the traction assistance that he might have needed at this exit. And Shooter will make the move and doesn't have a lot of battery to contend with. And I hope these drivers might just get yellow flag warnings if they make a move. Illegal overtake warnings. Hopefully, no moves coming in. So, not. Oh, on the inside was oxidized. That I don't know what. Or was that right behind? I'm not sure who those cars were. But yeah, a good battle for P7 that's going on. These drivers just finding their way up. But let's have a gap. Look at the gap to leader, and let's see how Raman might just fall down to P6 as there's a yellow flag again for an Alpine of Pratham, who has had a moment and has detached himself from the battle. And Malav has also attached himself to Harsh up ahead, and that penalty. So not just a podium, but looks like P2 for Malav. That is great news for him. And Oxidize also might just benefit in this process. He just needs to follow the drivers up ahead. Meanwhile, Shrikant and Shooter battle to watch out for. This is something, whatever points that they can get out of this race, side by side through the start finish straight. Shooter with that superior straight line speed. I believe that is the only explanation I could think of without having battery. Shrikant having that DRS, I think. Oh no, it was Shooter having that DRS. Oh right, Shrikant was ahead of him. So yep, now that explains it all. So yep, Shooter is up into P7, but there are 4 laps to go, and these drivers might just shuttle position. That's all matters. What their position is to the end of the lap, as you can beat me coming rather close to that Ferrari up ahead, and he is considering their tire life. Just 1 lap is the difference, but he is getting some good pace out of those medium tires. So that's something good to watch out. Meanwhile, Oxidize doesn't have a lot of battery, so best for him would be to just follow as much as he can. And Shooter and Shrikant have Abhi right up ahead, so they would look to make a move on Abhi. They are running out of laps. They've got the pace that they need to fight for the battle up front. Meanwhile, Wicked Vicky is just widening that gap to P2 and is just comfortably cruising for race victory. Meanwhile, Shooter is making a move on Abhi, and is Shrikant looking to follow suit this time around. Abhi breaks fairly late. Shooter gives him enough space and gets the drive that he needs. Abhi gets a bit compromised as now side by side with the Ferrari of Shrikant Das and going looking to make a move around the inside, but that gap was closing pretty much for him with the likes of the Aston Martin ahead, and Avi loses all that ground and those two positions as well. So can Shooter gain those 4 seconds on Oxidize on those last few laps? And this is rather going to get pretty interesting. And Shooter and Shrikant Das, with all that DRS and pace assist, have managed to claw up a few positions and consequently a few points for their contention for the championship. So talking about championship, that's probably a good time to have a look at the championship standings, how they are. Not sure if our supreme leader has been doing his job and well and updating those points table, but let's hope we get all those answers soon. Okay, Harsh, Shrikant, Ramen, Oxidize, and Shooter are top 5. So a lot of shuffling of positions. 40 points is the gap. Harsh with a comfortable lead, so that lead might just get a bit stripped off. No, actually not, because his rivals are right behind with Wicked, Vicky, just a bit behind. But this win is going to help him in his fight for championship. Meanwhile, You Can Beat Me right behind Harsh. He knows he can see that time penalty of Harsh is right up ahead, so he would not want to get eager and make any kind of moves, but rather just hold back and see what he can. He can easily cruise to P2, is it? No, but Ramen is somewhat pulling a gap, so it's going to be rather intense for P2 as well, and also intense for You Can Beat Me. For that particular moment, he came rather close. I'm sure those drive might have had his heart in the mouth momentarily, but yeah, and yeah, the virtual commentators, virtual Caesar's curse might have just been into play, but the Red Bull of Oxidize is also looking rather interested to make that move and get to that P2. Yes, it is an intense battle now with some kind of battery conservation. We have You Can Beat Me, who doesn't have much of battery to contend with. So can Oxidize make any kind of moves? It is 1.5 laps to go in this race. We have Wicked Vicky comfortably leading, coming up to turn 10 right now. So we will switch to him for the checkered flag, but this is an intense battle that has brewed for the last part of the race and is now coming down to the last lap. Who is going to take those final podium positions? Meanwhile, Harsh has lost a lot of ground to Raman. Oh, and he is catching up now. So 5 seconds is the gap. I think it's a good time to go at the gap to leader. Oh, it's going to be rather interesting. I'd rather switch back and we would just wait for the results. But let's focus on this battle, this three-way battle, which is rather going to turn five-way for the final lap, because Shrikant and Shooter have also gotten themselves involved. So what is going to happen through these final laps is that eagerness to take their car first through the checkered flag. Is that going to come out for them? It surely is for Oxidized Rage, but he has a good straight up ahead of him. Both the batteries flashing. In fact, all the drivers have their red lights flashing, barring Shrikant. Does Shrikant have that battery advantage? Can that come to his use right now? 5.5 is the gap between P2 and P3. So Raman also looking to secure that P2. It's rather final podium position that is in play, and Harsh will obviously lose out. It is between Oxidized, Shooter, Shrikant, and You Can Beat Me in all of that has somewhat lost a lot of ground somehow. I just lost what happened there and how things unfolded. Hopefully, the stream had something to watch out for, but this is rather intense because everything has just come alive in these final few turns, and Shrikant and Shooter probably making a bit of contact, but I think all is well for these drivers, hopefully maintaining the position, same tire life, and Shrikant losing a bit of ground as well. As round coming to round up the final couple of corners is going to come Wicket Vicky very soon, and probably we can just switch back to him for that final corner at the final lap, and the Red Bull takes the checkered flag of the Bahrain Grand Prix of the Indian Racing League. Ramen with that P2. Meanwhile, a fight brewing for P3. You can see it in the background of your screens. Harsh with eventually P3 on track, but lose that ground. Oxidized Rage, Shooter, and Shrikant Das finishing within a second of each other, and Oxidized Rage rounding up that final podium position. Harsh falls down to P6. You Can Beat Me down to P7. So Caesar, well done, Caesar, well done. Abhi in P8, Pratham in P9, Noble Garter in P10, 7. Noble Garter rounding up, I believe, the final points positions. 7, the next driver to see the checkered flag, Domithor, right behind him, driver of the day. Too harsh indeed, that was a good race from him. Clawed a few positions, fell back and fought his way back. Unfortunate with that penalty, but yep, that was a good result. And with the absence of co-commentator, I might just have to do a lot of party creation and things, so I will do that in a moment. Meanwhile, Wicket, Vicky, Ramen, and Oxidized the final podium positions for Bahrain Grand Prix. Shooter, Shrikant Das, intense battle and a comeback drive from these two drivers, or rather make it 3 with Harsh as well. You Can Beat Me also with a brilliant drive right from behind the grid at P15, and Abhi as well making plentiful positions there in that through the race. Pratham falling with their spins and that safety car restart mess. Noble Garter had a quiet, somewhat intense race, but a decent race for rounding up the final points position. 7, Domithor, Vintage, Mayank, Harshi, Rasam, or Mayank the final finisher, Harshi, Rasam, and Spandan not being able to finish the race. So, yep, that is Division 2 Bahrain Grand Prix for you. So, hopefully, our viewers had fun. I most certainly did. The race just came alive towards the end, and let me create a party. And who are Wicket Vicky, Ramen, and Oxidized. So, okay, I will invite these drivers. Alright, hopefully they join us very soon. Okay, one of them has. So, yep, we do have the driver who finished P3. Oxidized, can you hear us? Okay, let's still wait for Oxidized. Meanwhile, Vicky has also joined the party. So, audio check. Can any of you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loudly.
All right, Vicky, we will come to you. We'll give a few seconds for these drivers. Oxidize, can you
Sure.
hear us?
Yeah, buddy, I can.
Yeah, now I can. All right, fantastic, great. All right, we have all the drivers. But let's start with our P3 driver, Oxidize. Topsy turvy race for you. A lot happened, and a lot of good luck and bad luck on your way. And I can hear myself also behind. But anyway, I won't talk much now. Take us through your race. How was it?
Lap initially on the race start, I had a pretty good start. I was able to gain few positions until before T10. I guess I was T3. So I had a very good first hit until lap 7. I guess I forgot my overtake was on. I got on the car, my rear kicked out, went into the manual. I wasn't expecting that. The safety car came out and Raman hit. I wasn't expecting Raman to hit so hard, but I had nowhere to go, so I had to hit for hard. It came out in hard and yep. I was running a very high tire pressure, so I was finding it very hard to stop the car. And the end of the race, my tire pressure, my tire temperatures were 105 and 107, so I was not able to keep the car very hard. But yeah, good results.
Yep, nonetheless, difficult conditions, but great outcome. Eventually, falling a few positions and coming back to the podium. So great, great race, Oxidize. Congratulations. Good to see you on the podium. Cheers. All right, moving to our driver in P2, which is Raman, who also had a pretty adventurous race. 5 second penalty somehow you also got for some reason, and a good P2 finish for you. So congratulations, Raman. Take us through your race.
Yeah, thanks. So it was too long, honestly. I don't remember. The penalty, I thought it was for overtaking before the line, but yeah, I think I overtook while it was yellow. I missed that. So yeah, that 5 second will stick. So, but after that, I think behind me, Shooter and Hertz, like Shooter, I'm not sure. Going into the penultimate corner, I think Shooter got like a bit too close to me on the braking, and he kind of lost the rear. I think Hirsch went into him because he was extremely slow after that. I'm sure like he's extremely like much faster than he would have eaten me up without. I'm sure he had damage. So that was a bit lucky, I guess. But yeah, kind of had some battles in the middle when I bit was faster, obviously. But yeah, long race, and I'm pretty happy with P2 because like this week, I mean, I have not put any hours into this track. I was in a friend at a friend's place. I'm on a different setup, completely like the chair I'm sitting on feels really weird. But yeah, just whatever it is, even if it's P3, I'm not sure what the penalty situation is. But yeah, pretty happy with the overall race.
Well driven, Raman, in those new conditions, and I believe the race gave you a P2, so that's a good runners-up result. Congratulations, and the drivers' championship is pretty much wide and open between all you drivers. So good luck for that as well to you and Oxidize. And now coming to our race winner, a brilliant drive from him, found his gap at the next safety car restart, and uh, just cruised his way through victory. Wicked Vicky, take us through your race. A brilliant drive from you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to congratulate Raman and Oxidize on a good race and good points for Red Bull. Starting from quali, my aim was to like get in top 5 or top 6 because I knew like I didn't have quali pace but I had a good race pace. Then in lap 1 it was all about keeping it safe, keeping everything on track. People were sending moves here and there, but I just took it easy. Then after that, after the first safety car, I guess Pratham spun. He was in P2. Then it was all about me and Shooter. Then again the safety car came and Raman, Mayank and I guess Oxidize didn't box because they were already boxed on lap 5. And after that it was all about taking it easy because I had the pressure rubber. And luckily Hirsch got damaged
because I think he's faster than me. And after the second safety car, it was just easy ride for me. Like I was cruising.
Yep, and that cruise eventually got you through the checkered flag. So great drive and good points for you for the Drivers' Championship and a double podium for Red Bull. So good luck on your constructors battle as well. You're now a full-time driver, so good luck with that. And so, and oh, I believe Oxidize, your audio sharing was off. So what his a summary of it? I think is on now. Can you check your audio sharing settings as well? So otherwise, his summary was he had high tire pressure, struggling to turn the car in the final few laps, but eventually still a mega drive and getting P3 in on those 17 or 18 old old tires. So yep, there's a lot of echo behind which is distracting my dialogue as well. So but we'll take a pause there and thank you all your viewers all for tuning in, and we will hope to see you tomorrow same time 9:45 p.m. for our division 1 race around Bahrain. Until then, bye bye.